Hello and welcome to this latest edition of ESPNcricinfo Weekly. I'm Mark Donaldson. Plenty to talk about this week. So joining me is ESPNcricinfo senior correspondent George Dobell. George, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you, Mark.
OK, let's start with some English cricket. And having replaced Ravi Bopara for the second test, James Taylor is the latest to try out at number 6 for England. Do you think he's the solution to England's problem position?
He might be. He is a good player. He's an unusual player, very talented, very, very short. I think his official height is something like 5'4". I don't think he will turn out to be that tall, to be honest. I think he's more like 5'1", 5'2". So he has this very unusual technique which can cause bowlers trouble because he disrupts their lengths. He's got a first-class batting average of nearly 50, which is hard to ignore, but he's only moved to a first division club at Nottinghamshire this season, and he struggled a wee bit making that step up. I think he's passed 50 twice in 15 championship innings. He scored 100 last week, so that's fantastic, or in the last few days, and so he comes into it in pretty good form. But if I'm honest, I'm a bit surprised by the timing. I thought there were a couple of people ahead of him. But he has the talent, and he could, if he scores 100, really make the position his own for more than a decade.
Now, you have a privileged position at ESPNcricinfo, but I'm going to promote you very briefly to head of England's cricket selectors. Who are you putting in at number 6?
Well, if I'm absolutely honest, I wouldn't have picked Taylor. There are a few options. I would have thought that Nick Compton, who's having a fantastic season for Somerset, would have been ahead of Taylor. And I think he's very solid. And bearing in mind the South African bowling attack, you might want someone like Compton who has a watertight defensive technique. But if I'm honest, I would have gone for an all-rounder. I think long-term Ben Stokes might be the answer, but I don't think he's fit enough right now or in form right now. I would have gone for either Ricky Clark or probably Chris Woakes, who plays for Warwickshire. He would have strengthened the bowling, which I think England clearly need. They took 2 wickets in best part of 200 overs, didn't they, at the Oval? But people don't understand what a good batsman Chris Woakes is. I think he's got more championship centuries than Owen Morgan, for example, or various other people who are competing for the position as a specialist batsman. So I'd have gone for Woakes. I might have batted him at 7 below Pryor. And I think he would have been the all-round option. Again, he's quite a young man, 23, he could have grown into the role. And I think possibly they've missed a trick there. But, you know, Taylor's a good player, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he made a success of it.
And with that, your tenure as head of England's cricket selectors is over. So back to being ESPNcricinfo senior correspondent. We move on to South Africa. And after his heroics at the Oval in the first test, do you think that Jacques Kallis can now be considered one of the greatest all-rounders in history?
I think he has to be. I think the fact that we could even compare him to a cricketer as wonderful as Sir Garfield Sobers underlines the pure class of Kallis. His record, the statistics of his record are almost absurdly good. He's scored over 12,000 test runs, nearly 300 test wickets, and he's a really wonderful fielder. So we have to consider him absolutely up there among the very best all-rounders that have ever played the game. There's an interesting stat here that only 2 men who have played test cricket for any period of time, anyway, have averaged over 40 with the bat and under 33 with the ball. Kallis is one, and Tony Greig, perhaps a little bit surprisingly, is the other. But whatever way you look at it, Kallis is a great cricketer and a great all-round cricketer.
We've spoken about England, we've spoken about South Africa. Now let's have a little chat about the West Indies. It's been a while, but with Chris Gayle back in the fold, do you think the Windies are finally capable of returning to the upper ranks of Test cricket, where many believe they belong?
Well, I think that everyone who likes cricket likes cricket from the Caribbean in particular. I think everyone has a soft spot for West Indies cricket and Pakistan cricket, to be honest, because of the flair and raw talent that those countries tend to play with and tend to produce. Chris Gayle's return is very welcome to everybody, regardless of nationality, I think. Whether he can take them right up to the top, I doubt, to be honest, because while they'll take a couple of steps in the right direction, I've no doubt, there are some really deep-rooted problems in Caribbean cricket. And the fact is that you've got a guy like Jerome Taylor, who's still not in the side. It just underlines the fact that they don't make the most of their talent. I don't think there's any shortage of raw talent there. but I don't think they play enough at first-class level. I think the transition from age group to professional game is not good enough. And, of course, the problems with Gale even aren't fully resolved. There will be periods where he disappears again, probably, to go and play 2020 cricket for various franchises. And he's not the only one in that position. But look, it's really welcome that some of the problems that were holding the West Indies back have been resolved. And let's enjoy him while we can, because he is a really unusual cricketer, and a cricketer that I think any spectator will feel joy watching him, even if he's playing against you. And so he's one to savour while we've got him, I think.
Indeed. Thank you, George.
Great pleasure.
That's all from this week's edition of ESPNcricinfo Weekly. Keep in touch with the very latest from the world of cricket, either online or via our Cricinfo app on your mobile device. See you again next week. Bye for now.